Ho-Chunk, the Menominee, Sauk, and Meskwaki peoples. We have a responsibility to acknowledge that our UCH community has played a role in shaping the histories of these Native people. By acquiring and building on this land, the harm that has been done to them through displacement, we also recognize, share, and celebrate the memorable ties to this land. We commit ourselves to developing a deeper partnership that advocate for the progress, dignity, and humanity of the many diverse Native Americans who still live and practice their heritage and tradition in our community. Let us move forward and in harmony and honor of past, present, and future generations. Please rise in body or spirit for the opening hymn, Seek Not Afar for Beauty, which is number 77 in our gray hymnal.
I invite all those who are young and young at heart to come on up. We have a story for all the kids and all the grown-ups who want to be kids.
Oh, we have more than a story. We have things for you to take home. So young at heart, come on up. And while they're coming, I invite the rest of you to think a moment of a place in nature which calls to you, whether it's nearby, far away, a place you've only been to once or several times. Yeah, come on up. Here, come on. Well, that's fine. Yeah, that's it? No more young at heart? Okay. So, share with a neighbor a place. Share with a neighbor, yay, a place which speaks to you in nature. You may speak to each other now. No, I have it right here. Okay, come on up and take a flower, kids. Come on up. Come on up and take a flower. You can take a couple, and we'll dab the stems. They're wet. Yeah, pick a couple colors, pull them out, dab them on the rag. Come on up and take a flower. You're young at heart. Come on up and take a flower. Take 3. What the heck?
White one at the bottom.
Yellow. Take more than one. Oh, thank you. Well, all you who are not young at heart, you don't get a flower today, so okay. I want to say that our story today isn't a story really so much as it's a letter. Have you guys ever received a letter in the mail addressed just to you? Maybe on your birthday, a get well, Christmas. I have a letter today. And you have to wait till the end to find out who it's from, but it's addressed to you. And I don't have the book, so you don't need to worry about looking at me. The pictures will be up here. Dear little one, your time on earth has just begun. Take in the sights, take in the sounds, take in the scents that excite and astound. Do you like how your flower smells? Celebrate the flower. Be grateful for bees. Their work bears fruit. Worship the trees. Investigate insects. Some glow and shine. Inspect spider webs and their lovely design. Watch plants grow. Start them from seeds. Be enchanted by ferns. Examine the weeds. Dig in the ground. Find worms and stones. Look for ancient fossils or long buried bones. Hike in the forests. They make the world green. Their leaves act like lungs to keep the air clean. Love mammals and birds, reptiles and amphibians too, in their natural habitat, not just in a zoo. Visit oceans and lakes far away and near. Swim with the fish in waters so clear. Treasure the deserts, explore the sand. Climb up the mountains, be good to the land. Be thankful for the wind, the rain, and the snow. Be in awe of the sun that makes everything grow. Marvel at the stars and the vastness of space. You are a sparkling part of this beautiful place. Care for this world. It will be a friend to you, and be there for your children and all children too. Bring peace to our earth. Help keep it from danger. I send you my blessings. Love, Mother Nature. So if you want to come up, I have something else for you to take home. Where are they? Yeah. Yeah. Take the flowers. Come on. Thank you. Anybody else want one? A letter from Mother Nature? Want to pass them out, Jonathan? Oh, where'd the flowers go? Oh, you want to choose a flower? Jonathan, do you have a letter for this young man? Oh, is that one?
Now we have a reading from Chief Dan George of the Coast Salish Tsleil-Waututh tribe. He was also an actor, so you may recognize his picture. It is hard for me to understand a culture that not only hates and fights his brothers, but even attacks nature and abuses her. Man must love all creation or he will love none of it. Love is something you and I must have. We must have it because our spirit feeds on it. Without love, our self-esteem weakens. Without it, our courage fails. Without love, we can no longer look out confidently at the world. Instead, we turn inwardly and begin to feed upon our own personalities, and little by little, we destroy ourselves. Thus ends the reading.
Once again, welcome and thank you for attending our service this morning. Our theme is nature all around us. The service was created by the Green Sanctuary Committee. Music today is provided by Karen Hayes and Jonathan Hand. Jonathan stepped in at the last minute this morning. Thanks to Jonathan. And to Charlie Fisher, who reads his emails in the morning and made it all happen. There's always a lot going on around the church, and you can read all about it in News and Notes, which arrives in your inbox every Friday. And there are printed copies available at the back. If you'd like to receive News and Notes, stop by the welcome table in the living room at the back of the church. We have a special announcement today by a special guest. And that special guest is on his way here and will be here. There are two special guests this morning. I'm honored.
It's so nice to feel special once in a while. So I am a poor substitute for Pam Fodor as far as making this announcement about our exciting fundraiser. And I'm going to let Nancy Krantz, I'm Darren Howard, by the way. I'm going to let Nancy Krantz tell you about the fundraiser and the theme, especially for visitors or folks who aren't familiar with the history of the church. So, Nancy, if you could share the theme, please.
A lot of people have been curious about why we are calling this fundraiser Club 152. And we decided on that theme because our congregation is very much like a club. We pay dues. We have meetings. Hopefully we have fun together. And the 152 is because COVID totally disrupted the 150th anniversary celebration of this church. So since it's 2 years past that, we decided to at least honor it to a certain degree by calling it Club 152. So that explains that.
Thank you, Nancy. So I have a lot to say about this fundraiser because we're going to make sure it's lots of fun for you. I want to give you some examples of some of the offerings in the past and some that are already on the table, literally on the tables, because many of them are dinners for this year, and encourage you to buy your tickets at the gold table hosted by the man with the rainbow hat back there in the living room, Mr. Pabian, and also to offer something for auction. You can do lots of different things. You could offer to provide a meal at your home of your specialty. The Knowles are again this year going to offer their feijoada dinner, which I went to, 3 years ago, I guess, and it was just a great time. Let's see what other things are already on deck. And also I forgot to mention I'm kind of the voice box for Steve Trout too, because he's really kind of he and Nancy are really sort of chairing the whole thing. So, we've had many different types of fundraisers, but this particular type is the silent auction. It's very popular because everybody is asked to offer something, a dinner at their home, or if you're a handyman, you could offer some handyman services to somebody who couldn't otherwise afford them. You set your own price, but we will work with you in helping you determine what to ask. Some of the other examples in the past were Dinner and a Show, hosted by Peter Crowder, where he and Joanne would provide a really good dinner, and then Peter would do one of his fantastic magic shows. Some of these things are perfectly fine for children as well. Let's see. Some people are planning to dress up because of the club theme. You could come as whatever era of club you're interested in dressing up as. And we want to ask everyone to try to attend and offer something to sell or auction. Let's see. Other things we've done are Cards Against Humanity Party by the Tepmas, always very well attended. Other game nights and just typical card games. The Trouts do a Greek holiday dinner quite often. Other themed parties. Now, this year, I am pleased to announce that Megan Griffin and I are going to be offering a French country breakfast buffet at my home. So, we want enough of you to sign up for that we will have to offer it twice. Thank you. My son, who's pretty successful, is offering to auction off 2 free nights at any hotel through Expedia. He travels a lot, so every time he calls me on the weekend, hey, I got all these points, you want to come up and stay over at my hotel? And he's also offering with me a event called ABC. This is all his branding and doing. He lives in Madison, Wisconsin, and he is calling it ABC, appetizers, bourbon, and cigars. Those are his 3 favorite things. So if you sign up for that one, you'll come to my house. We're not going to make you drive all the way to Madison, Wisconsin. And, he's a real good bourbon aficionado who's in a training to become a bourbonniere, I think it's called, or something like that, to really be considered a specialist in bourbon. And my notes just disappeared, but here we go. So there's some examples of things. Now, I'm also donating some of my mileage, I was trying to do my mileage points, but there's not enough time for airfare. But I have hotel points that I'll be donating. And I'll probably pair that with something else, a dinner at whatever destination you go to. Other things in the works, Bonnie Wayman is doing a pool party with salsa, and Liz and Benjamin are I think you're doing I saw them, they're going to do their fantastic Mexican fiesta. So be sure to go visit that gold table, and Nancy and Mike will be working it, and I'll be floating around trying to do the same. And of course, I think I saw Tim, but he's probably in the kitchen. Tim Dvorak, our resident chef, will be providing no, actually, I think we're catering this event. We are catering this event from Via Bella, I believe. Is it Via Bella? Okay. Oh, okay. I'm not supposed to tell that one, I guess. So again, we need volunteers, just a few more possibly. And for anyone who's watching on YouTube, if you can't make it in person because you can't drive or whatever, and you really want to come, we'll try to make arrangements for you to come to the event. And if you could still probably sell or auction off something, one of your services, or if you're a storyteller or a good cook or something. So, okay, partner, did I miss anything? Yes, I did. Nancy is up again.
What we have to mention is that it is on May 20th, a Friday, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Also, we will need volunteers, and there is a link to Sign Up Genius on the news and notes. Please do go there and see what suits you in terms of tasks that you might help with. That's a very important part of something like this. So I think that's it.
That reminded me too. We're putting together an online auction form so you can sign up for what you want to do online if you want to save paper. But there are paper forms in the back too. All that will be put online eventually. May not be shared, but it's really for the team to know who's all offering something to auction off. Yeah, you can buy your tickets today. It's $20 a person per adult. I guess I'm being hooked off the stage, so thank you everybody for listening.
And that's right, the announcement about catering was not supposed to be made. So, this is a Men in Black reference, see? Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Further announcements, I'd like to highlight 3 green topics. First, next Sunday, May 1st, is the return of Beltane. After the darkness of 2 plague years, we'll celebrate the return of summer and of light next Sunday at noon with our annual Beltane celebration. We'll have food and drink, a pageant on the turning of the seasons, music, costumes, and of course, dancing around the maypole. We'll have masks for everyone. Remember when masks were fun? So join us at noon on the church lawn next Sunday. Also, we're promoting everyone's participation in Homegrown National Park, which Jane Folzer will tell you about in greater detail later in the service. If you can convert just a portion of your lawn or your yard to native plants, you can sign up. We're looking to have 30 people and households participate. We've already got 19 signed up, so join up soon in making more homes for butterflies and bees and all those other pollinators. And finally, you've heard me talk about the work that we are doing with the Cook County Forest Preserves to restore wild natural habitat for butterflies and bees. At Bemis Woods, which is on Ogden Avenue, just about a mile from here, we are marking our 25th anniversary of making room for native wildflowers and grasses. And the celebration is this coming Saturday, April 30th. I'll be leading a tour of the woodland at 10 o'clock in the morning and again at 1 in the afternoon. And if you stay late for the first show or come early for the second, we'll have stories and photos and lunch for everyone. That's next Saturday, April 30th, at Bemis Woods, which is on Ogden Avenue between Wolf Road and I-294. And now we join in sharing the fire of love that burns in our presence. We enter this space bringing with us joys, concerns, challenges, and blessings. If you have something either weighing or dancing on your heart this morning, you're invited to come up to light a candle. If you wish, you can say a name, a word, or a short phrase to share your intention. And again, this is going out over the wireless, so if you want to avoid last names, that works just fine.
My dad wants to say something if you just want to meet him.
Sure.
It's almost been a year since we lost Janice, and in that time, there's a question we often ask ourselves: what would Janice say? What would Mama say? What would Mama say?
As you know, I'm Nancy. My sister, who is one of the most careful person you ever want to meet, caught COVID. And now her husband has it. And she had 102 temperature. She feels horrible. And she has a terrible cough, and they called it a mild case. So I just wanted to say that's what I'm wearing my mask for now all the time when I'm in a group. And I just wanted to pass that along. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention, too, that my father donated the flowers that are in the front for this service, and in honor of what would have been my parents' 53rd wedding anniversary. And funny enough, last year when my mom posted for their anniversary on the day she went to the hospital, she put the wrong year, so she put this year. So that was kind of funny, but happy 53rd wedding anniversary to them.
Yeah, I'm Ron Solberg, and I wanted to invite you and my wife Norma Tuesday evening at 7:30. We're going to be having a book discussion about animal vegetable junk, and it's so much in line with what you're addressing today in the service that I think you'll really enjoy it. Whether you've read the book or not, please join us 7:30 Tuesday night via Zoom, and you can see the link on News and Notes.
Hi, I lit 2 candles. I'm Karen. I lit 2 candles for my granddaughters, which are both home now, and Hattie, who'd been in the NICU for 7 weeks. It's still a rough road, but they're both home, and the family is doing the best they can with 4, 3, and under.
Good morning, my name is Liz, and I'm lighting a candle for my mom's, what should have been her 77th birthday yesterday, just thinking about her.
Hi, I'm Kevin, and I lit the candle for my mom, who's 90, and we're taking care of her, and she's got dementia, and it's a rough road. I do not wish that on anyone.
And we light 3 final candles. One for our community that supports each other through the difficult and celebrates the great and those concerns that might be too tender to share. One for our political employees, that they remember where they live and who they serve. And one for people around the world, not just Ukraine, but Somalia, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Yemen, El Salvador. I could go on and on, that we remember people suffering around the world. Now relax. Take an enriching breath in. Deep, deep breath. We so often breathe shallow all day long because we're working and thinking, and we don't often take time. Whether it's conscious meditation or just when you think of it, a deep breath in, a cleansing breath out. Picture a part of nature. It can be the woods, a beach, the ocean, your own yard. What do you see, hear, feel, smell?
My name is Charlie Fisher. I first heard of Gerald W. Adelmann in the early 1980s when I was a student in landscape architecture at the University of Illinois. Jerry led the lobbying effort that resulted in 1984 in President Reagan's signing of a bill to establish the Illinois and Michigan Canal National Heritage Corridor, the first of its kind in the nation. Simultaneous to that remarkable success, Jerry joined Openlands, which had been founded in 1963. When I returned to Chicago in 1986 after a professional apprenticeship in Palo Alto, I learned from my dad that Stan Johnson, his close colleague at Argonne Lab and friend here at UCH, was also a strong advocate of the corridor. In time, now decades ago, Stan brought Jerry to this podium. In addition to Jerry, other eminent environmentalists who have presented here over the past 60 years are Veronica Kyle, Dave Lloyd, Jerome McDonnell, Jane Folser, Pat Miller, Pat Sells, Tim Burke, the Prairie Earth UU Fellowship, Dr. Gerald Wilhelm, Reverend Ed Searle, William Least Heatmoon, Carol Doty, Ray Schulenberg, Reverend John Nichols, and in the 1960s, May Theogard Watts. Grow where you are planted, we say to the native plant species that we plant in our homegrown national park gardens. Grow where you are planted, we say. And who personifies that adage more than Jerry Adelmann, President and CEO of Openlands? Jerry Adelmann is deeply rooted in Lockport, Illinois, heart of the Illinois and Michigan Canal National Heritage Corridor. Through his dedication to the Center for Humans and Nature and other environmental organizations, and in his strong leadership of Openlands, Jerry has made a significant difference. He has raised awareness and strengthened the connection of the rich natural world of the Chicago region to the natural worlds of the continent, the planet, and beyond. And I am so very happy that Jerry accepted our invitation to return to UCH and share with us his insights, perspectives, and even his retrospectives today. We will have the opportunity for conversation and questions and answers with Jerry following our worship time this morning. People here gathered, Openlands President and CEO, Gerald Adelmann.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and good morning, everyone. It's a real honor for me to be back. It's sort of nostalgic because it was almost 40 years ago when I spoke to your congregation at the invitation of Stan Johnson, who was such a great advocate for what became the first National Heritage Corridor in the country. There are now over 55 of them, these partnership parks, based on our model, really, that was developed here in Illinois. One of my favorite quotes about nature comes from the great mystic and novelist Tolstoy. He said, "One of the conditions of happiness is that the link between man and nature shall not be broken." And I think today we realize that there are a lot of things that have broken so many of those connections and those bonds. And what you're about as a community of faith is bringing them together, and what we must do as a society as well. I mean, never have we faced as extraordinary a challenge as we have today with climate change. And it's appropriate to be able to talk with you today, just a couple days after Earth Day. So I'm honored to be here, and thank you for inviting me. As Charlie said, Openlands, we were a pioneer as a conservation organization formed in 1963 by the Welfare Council of Metropolitan Chicago, a group that kind of morphed into the United Way. So people have always been at the core. We care deeply about biodiversity, about rare nature, but we also believe, that nature is vital to everyone, and it should be close to where they live at all different scales. And when I hear the amazing work that you're doing with the Forest Preserve over all these years restoring our rare nature, your national park program, which is so impressive, it's really parcel by parcel piecing together this landscape that has become so fragmented to make it friendlier, obviously, to pollinators, to birds, to all of nature, but also providing opportunities for all of us to connect to nature close to where we live. And I think during the past 2 years with COVID, I've never seen such an expression of the value and appreciation of nature in our lives. People turn to it in unprecedented ways. People of all backgrounds, all ages. We know the tremendous impact it has on our environment and our community health, but also on our personal and emotional and spiritual health, if you want. So today is a time, more than ever, that we must, meet these global challenges and figure out how to do it in our own backyard, so to speak. Because the challenges are daunting, and sometimes I think they're crippling. But there are many positive things that are happening, that many of you are already doing, and that we need to encourage others to take on. So at Openlands, we're a regional land conservation group. We cover parts of 3 states. So we do a lot. Direct land protection, advocacy, policy work, but we also have programs on the ground and that illustrate these guiding principles and values and so forth. We do strategic plans every 3 to 5 years, and about 4 years ago when we adopted our last strategic plan, we said, but what are we doing about climate? We don't talk about it. And we said, well, we're really doing a lot. that there's nature-based solutions to climate that often aren't discussed, things that you're doing already, restoring lands so that they absorb more carbon, more stormwater, planting native landscapes, replanting our urban forest. We have a program, a very aggressive program on urban forestry. We have over 2,000 volunteers who have taken classes that learn all about tree care and tree planting, and they volunteer then. We've planted over 5,000 trees, and it's not the numbers. Before it was very much about tree care. It focused primarily in the city of Chicago, and Chicago sadly and the metropolitan areas actually has one of the lowest tree canopies of any metropolitan area in the country. And for example, in the city of Chicago, our tree canopy went down from 19% to 16%. Now, there are reasons. Early, of course, with Dutch elm, and so many of our beautiful streets were planted, with these marvelous arching elms, the City Beautiful movement that kind of emanated out of the Chicago area. Well, we learned, don't plant one species, because, disease comes and whew. So what did we do? We replaced a lot of it with ash, and then the emerald ash borer, but also cuts in budgets and various other things. So we formed tree keepers and trained people from all walks of life to maintain the urban forest. Mayor Daley got elected. He reached out to us. We had a program called Neighborwoods where we were trying to raise awareness about the important role that trees play in our environment, in our lives. And he read about one of these. I remember it was next to the obituaries in the Tribune. Every politician reads obituaries, so I think we've learned that. And he said, I want to meet with you people. And fine, we've done tree plantings, very modest, a few trees, but to raise awareness in about 2/3 of the Chicago neighborhoods, working with block clubs, school groups, church councils, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, you name it. The goal being raising awareness and creating advocates, not planting numbers of trees, but we had documented that there was a net loss of 100,000 trees in the city over a 10-year period. We said, if this continues, it's a disaster. So he met with us. I had a young urban forester, a very dynamic young woman, Edith Macra. He grilled her. Why can't we have trees on Lakeshore Drive? They were redesigning it. You can, but it's hostile. You need to understand. What about this? What about that? Turns out he was born on Arbor Day, and he loved trees. He didn't know much about, biodiversity and conservation. He learned a lot over time. So that program has grown and evolved, and now we're planting trees as well with community always, not ourselves doing it alone. And we're now developing chapters throughout the region. So you may want to go on our website and learn about that and think about maybe starting a chapter. You need to have support of your local community. That's key. But those are some of the things where green school campuses, they're hostile environments in Chicago. They paved over them. And while we work regionally on trails and greenways and large land acquisition, we have a very focused program in underserved communities in Chicago, always have, on the south and west sides, trying to improve the quality of life for the people who live there, improving the quality of the environment, which they're so interconnected. And a variety of other things. There's a wonderful program that Martin Arboretum is spearheading that we're a senior partner with many others, called Chicago Region Tree Initiative. You'll probably be reading about it, but looking at the 7-county area. So those are just some examples of nature-based solutions to climate. We hear a lot about energy, about design, transportation, critical. But we forget this, and over 36% of carbon sequestration can happen through natural things. But there are no simple answers, and I think people are often frustrated and kind of depressed. What can I do? And there are many things. You all bring such great talents and personal passions. And some of it is just in your own communities, in your own homes, conserving water, recycling, doing all the good things that we know we should do. Planting pollinator gardens and so forth. Not everyone is able to do all of those things, and you need to pick and choose what you're most comfortable with, what your skills are, what your passions are. But all of us must be advocates for nature. And today, 80% of Americans live in metropolitan areas. Half the world live in metropolitan areas. And therefore, the people who live there must become the ambassadors. And our youth, I was so happy to see young people here and that wonderful story from Mother Earth to all of them. That's the hope of the future, obviously. So in the Chicago region, we have one of the most complicated geopolitical landscapes in America. We have all these units of local government. Land use decisions are made in isolation. There's no state policy about land use. Comprehensive county and regional plans are often overturned. So that's why an organization like Openlands can rise above that and look at the big picture and see that web of green and convene, for instance, forest preserve and park districts, conservation districts, maybe to look at areas that must be protected that cut across political boundaries, or looking at opportunities for trails and greenways, for water trails. The I&M Canal, I think, was a very good example of that. With the I&M, it also was trying to integrate our landscape, not looking at it in silos, but we look at this land, it represents the interaction between people and nature from the dawn of time. And it's not pristine wilderness, and the cultural features here also tell stories and connect us to place. And so, again, integrating kind of ecology, economy, and culture in a living, working landscape, not a pristine one, but trying to get people to share similar values and work together in collaborative ways with government, with business and industry, with private individuals, with not-for-profits, with everyone there is terribly, terribly important. So I was thrilled to see your land acclamation, your messages, your music related to Native peoples, indigenous people. Something that I've only learned recently is that 80% of the biodiversity in the world is concentrated in 20% of the land where indigenous people still live and are still in charge. Indigenous knowledge, indigenous science has so much to teach us in concert with Western science. And so one of those great champions, someone I'm honored to say that I've known and even worked a little bit, is Robin Wall Kimmerer. Some of you may be familiar with Braiding Sweetgrass. It was a bestseller in the New York Times for a long time. Robin is an extraordinary scientist. She's also a member of the Potawatomi Nation and a great voice, really, for many of the things that you have shared earlier this morning. So I'd like to read a few things from her, which I think are very relevant to the theme today, to the work that you're doing, and to what we all must do. So maybe I should just also mention, step back, Charlie mentioned the Center for Humans and Nature. So this is sort of a think tank, if you want, looking at the long-term implications, the ethical and moral implications of how we're living as a society from a comprehensive interdisciplinary point of view. It brings together thought leaders from all disciplines, artists, writers, scientists, philosophers, ethicists, and so forth. Humansandnature.org, check the website. There's some marvelous material there. And they're not advocates in a classic sense, meaning in the front lines, but rather stepping back a bit to give good information and foundation for those of us who are in the front lines. Robin has been one of our great colleagues and thought leaders with the center. That's how I got to know her, and what a remarkable woman. Anyway, so this is from an essay that she did for the Center for Humans and Nature. Let me just read a little bit here. We are showered every day with the gifts of the earth, gifts we have neither earned nor paid for. Air to breathe, nurturing rain, black soil, berries, and honeybees, the tree that became this bag of rice, and the exuberance of a field of goldenrod and asters at full bloom. Though the earth provides us with all that we need, we have created a consumption-driven economy that asks, what more can we take from the earth? And almost never, what does the earth ask of us in return? The premise of earth asking something of me, makes my heart swell. I celebrate the implicit recognition of the earth's animacy, that the living planet has the capacity to ask something of us, and that we have the capacity to respond. We are not passive recipients of her gifts, but active participants in her well-being. We are honored by the request. It lets us know that we belong. So she outlines a few points relative to reciprocity of the gifts of the earth, and let me just quickly share that. She said, we must recognize ourselves as only one member of the great democracy of species and understand that we, like every other successful organism, must play by the rules that govern ecosystem functions. So a very important principle, really. I think in Judeo-Christian traditions, the earth is there to serve us, and we're at the top. No, we are all part of creation. And that message from especially indigenous cultures is so powerful, something that we must understand better and absorb. Another point is, long before the descent of humans, a solar economy of plants created a living world from inanimate materials, constantly regenerating life through networks of reciprocity. Again, so we're part of this web of life in every way. We're stewards of it as well, because in the time that we live in, the Anthropocene, as it's called, because we're affecting climate and nature more than it's the humans who are doing it. We have huge responsibility, but we're part. Third, ecological restoration is an act of reciprocity, and the earth asks us to turn our gifts to healing the damage we have done. You're doing that with your gardens. You're doing it with your restoration with the Cook County Forest Preserve, and I'm sure many of you in other ways. Really powerful. And finally, reciprocity is rooted in the understanding that we are not alone, that the earth is populated by non-human persons, wise and inventive beings deserving of our respect. So I think there's just so much that we have to learn from indigenous people that we have displaced, in some cases massacred. My own personal history, my great-great-great-grandfather was one of the first permanent white settlers in what today is the Lockport area, and was friendly with Chief Shawbana, who warned him to flee to Fort Dearborn during the Black Hawk War. He passed on his powder horn that's been passed down to my family. We're very proud of that, but then I realized, but we were also agents of that change, We all are. And so collectively, how do we address these things? What's going on in the world today? Oh my God, relative to the climate, relative to, human crisis, as was mentioned, not only Ukraine. I also mentioned that for 30 years I've done volunteer work in Southeast Asia, and for 10 to 12 years in Myanmar and Burma. And I'm sure you're familiar with what's happened there. So many of my colleagues and friends are in prison, in exile, some have been killed. So this is the world we live in, but we can change and we can make positive contributions. There's no question about it. Being in this church also tells me that it's not just nature again, but it's also culture. And culture is reflected in many ways, but in part by the built environment. Our archaeological sites, of course, but also a magnificent building like this, and you're a steward of that and have been. What a rich history you have. And so you always have to think about, what do you want to leave for future generations? That we've benefited. I was very fortunate coming from, a relatively small community at the time, and where both sides of my family have lived there for 6 generations. I couldn't escape it if I wanted. But I was lucky to know my grandparents. I knew 2 great-grandparents, great-aunts and uncles, great-great-aunts and uncles. They told me stories, as you tell stories. That's how we connect people to place. And if you don't love a place, if you don't know a place, you won't love the place, even with all its warts and all its problems. And so I think a focus, a more holistic, comprehensive understanding of place, of our environment, of our culture, of our economy is so important. I have to say that I was, truly honored and humbled to read through the list of those who have spoken here, and now myself twice. Oh my gosh! But just a quick, and I know my time is up here, but May Theogard Watts, what an extraordinary person, and she really was, among other things, the catalyst for what became the Prairie Path. And she turned to Gunnar Peterson, who was the first executive director of Openlands, said, "Help me." And she was trying to save the prairie along this abandoned railway, but also converted in for hiking and biking. And it was the first in the nation. And that's one thing at Openlands, because we were kind of pioneers. At that time, conservation was seen as rural areas or wilderness, but this was the birth of the modern environmental movement as we know it. It gave it was the time of the Clean Air Act, EPA's created, Earth Day, Clean Water Act, grassroots activism, and so forth. So we did a lot of innovative things because there weren't models. People didn't think there was anything worth saving in a large city, suburbs, or ex-urban fringe. We always get our work done through collaboration and partnership, and May Watts is a perfect example of that, and what a pioneer. It's now a national movement, as you know. I mean, there's the Rails to Trails Conservancy, and across our region, across the country, many of these abandoned rail rights of way have now been converted into hiking and biking corridors, but also with native landscape and corridors for migration of insects and birds and animals, and so powerful. William Least Heat Moon, I worked with him on a book with the I&M Canal where he did some essays, toured with him. What an amazing guy. Jerry Wilhelm, Veronica Kyle, and others. I mean, so it's really an honor to be here and to be included within that. And I want to give special thanks to Charlie Fisher, who I can't tell you how thoughtful he was in reaching out to me initially and sharing with me how this is evolving, and just has done a marvelous job. So, Charlie, thank you. But so I think I've gone over my 20 minutes a little bit. I apologize, but it's been a treat to be with you today. I admire all that you do and all that you represent in terms of your values. And I think we always have to keep a sense of optimism and hope. One of our co-founders was George Overton, an attorney, chaired the ethics committee for the Bar Association, a wonderful guy. His parents were very involved with Jane Addams and Hull House and that whole progressive era. He was involved in fresh air camps, getting inner city youth out into nature. And when I got started working on what became the Heritage Corridor, he said, Jerry, your job is to raise the threshold of hope. That's what we all must do. And so you do it here, and it's very impressive. And thank you for having me, and happy Earth Day.
This is the time of the service when we support our church financially. And we also have an opportunity to support Openlands. All cash that we receive today will go to Openlands. If you'd like to make a contribution to Openlands and you have your checkbook handy, write a check to the church, put Openlands in the memo. If you're at home, it's very easy to contribute to the church. Go to the church website, find that donate button, and if you dig down one or two pages, you can designate to whom your contribution goes. You can make it to the church, you can make it as your pledge to the church, or list Openlands as the recipient. We now gratefully accept and thank you for your contributions. Thank you. Jane, I invite you up to talk about Homegrown National Park.
Our call to action comes from Doug Tallamy's book, Nature's Best Hope, a new approach to conservation that starts in your yard. This is from page 36. Every person on Earth depends entirely on the quality of Earth's ecosystems for his or her continued existence. Therefore, each of us, not just a few scientists, carries an inherent responsibility of good Earth stewardship. The conservation of the Earth's resources, including its biological systems, must become the part
of everyday culture of us all, worldwide, and it must happen quickly. So, as you've heard, Doug Tallamy tells us we can do this in our own backyard by becoming part of the Homegrown National Park. The directions are in that envelope there on the poster. And then we'd like for, if you decide to get on the map, we'd like for you to sign up on the poster there. So far, as Dave Lloyd said, we have 18 families already, and our goal is 30. So we encourage you all to join the Homegrown National Park and get on the map. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Please rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn, which is What is This Life, number 94 in your gray hymnal. I like songs with 3 verses so that we can learn it by the end of the song. Please join in these words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. And Karen, we welcome our closing music.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
All right, so I think so. The problem is, yeah, if you when you mute the speakers, like these mutes here are global mutes. Yeah. So they just mute it. But what I can tell now, with the way it's set up, just dragging it down seems to get it quiet enough. Okay. So that's good. So then what that means is that we can run these off of here. So I'm going to keep messing with it. And I think we'll be good. Not yet. I want to make sure they're all set up first before. I don't want to blow up the speakers in everyone's ears.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.